The regular meeting to order of the Maine Township Board. It being a little bit after 7:30, and for that I apologize, it is 7:35. And I'd ask everybody to first please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Viesha, can you take the roll?
Supervisor West?
Here.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Marchianzi?
Yes.
Trustee Carabora?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Here.
Clerk Jones?
Okay. So our first.
I'm sorry. Assessor Moynihan Cry?
Here.
And Highway Commissioner Kasmircha?
Here.
Sorry.
Thank you, Viesha. Do you know if Pete's coming?
No, he's not coming.
Okay.
He's coming.
So our first order of business, and I'm very pleased that she was willing to come and answer our questions and give a little presentation about the levy. There's nothing we're voting on tonight, is Tanya Antover. That I want to thank Assessor Moynihan Cry for making those arrangements to get Tanya here, and thank everybody who sent questions to Tanya beforehand. So with no further ado, because I know you're on a tight schedule, Tanya, if you don't mind stepping up, and I really thank you. Thank you. And Tanya is, well, she'll tell you what her position is.
Hi, I'm Tanya Antover. I am the manager of maps and tax extension for Cook County Clerk Karen A. Yarborough. Thank you for inviting me here to speak to you tonight. I just want to kind of start by going over a little bit of what the clerk's role in the levy and what we call the tax extension process is. So every year, taxing districts like Maine Township pass a levy ordinance. It's the amount of tax revenue they're asking for from all the property tax owners within their districts. They're required to pass that levy and file it with the clerk's office by the last Tuesday in December, according to statute. This year, that day will be December 31st, so it's the latest day it can be. We will be open that day to take in your levy filings. After we receive all of the levy filings, we figure out what everybody's asking for, and we enter it into our property tax computer system, and we calculate how much the law allows the taxing districts to receive from that levy. So it's a combination of how much the levy how much is being asked for from the levy, and then what the value base, how much property taxable value is in the district. So we divide the levy by the taxable value to get a tax rate, which is then applied to all of the property owners in the district. So you guys sent me a number of questions, and I kind of consolidated them down into 3 primary questions that seem to be coming to you. Those were about the truth in taxation requirement under statute, how the levy is impacted by the tax cap law's look-back provision, as well as how new property impacts your tax levy and your rates. So as far as the truth in taxation statute goes, I am not an attorney, and I can't really advise you on whether or not your proposed levy will require having a hearing in accordance with the truth in taxation statute. But what the statute says is that if your proposed levy is more than 105% of your prior year's extension, then you need to hold a public hearing. So I would recommend speaking with your attorney about whether or not that's going to be the case. You should know that the truth in taxation statute does have information about abatements, and you did reduce your levy last year, so you'd be basing it on what you originally levied back in December, not the amended levy from March. So if you're going over 105% over that original levy, what would have been extended on that levy is how you would be calculating that 105%. One other thing to be aware of is that the statute considers Maine Township to be a single taxing district. So both the primary fund of Maine Township and the General Assistance Fund are considered one district for all of our calculations. The road district is a different district with a separate limiting rate, but we calculate one rate, one combined rate when we're doing our reductions for the township's primary fund and the general assistance fund. So when we're doing all of the math on that, we combine those two extensions together. So.
Would you repeat that, please?
So the statute considers the district, the township, to be one district. So the primary fund, all of your corporate accounts and all of your social security, all the funds that you levy for in your township fund, plus your general assistance fund funds. Those are all considered one district for the purposes of our calculations. So the tax cap law tells the clerk to calculate what's called a limiting rate, which is the maximum rate that you can have each year, and we calculate that each year. We calculate a single limiting rate for the township and the general assistance fund, and then calculate the individual rates of those two funds, which add up to the limiting rate.
What's the effect of the look-back provision?
So the impact is the look-back provision, right? So the look-back provision, the tax cap law basically says that a taxing district can only increase the extension amount, the amount of money they get from property taxes each year, by the rate of inflation compared to last year. However, there is a 3-year look-back, people call it. It isn't called that in the statute, but that's what everyone calls it. And it directs the clerk to do two things. One, we look at your most recent extension, and it would be the combined extension of your
From December?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, from this most recent extension. No, this is actually the final extension, so the March extension.
The March.
Right. So your most recent extension, and compare that to the prior year. And if your most recent extension is lower than the prior year, we would then use the highest of the last 3 years when determining your base. So because you decreased your levy this last year, we will be using tax year 2016 as your extension base when we calculate your 2019 tax rate.
So that's an automatic thing?
That is something that the clerk is directed to do. That is the limiting rate, that's the maximum rate we will calculate. We won't pull you up to that rate if you levy lower, but that would be your maximum rate, is what we will calculate.
So then it would be almost impossible along those lines to go 105% over that.
You can certainly levy 105%.
What's the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Right, but in what we're thinking of. So what's the maximum you need to levy to gain new commercial?
So there really, you can levy however you
Or to use the look back.
Right, to use the look back again, if you look at what your 2016 extension was, to see what the tax cap law will allow for you to levy to receive for 2019. So if that's more than 105% over last year, then you need to have a truth in taxation hearing.
The 2016 is more than
If your proposed levy is more than 105% of last year.
of last year, not of 2016.
Correct. They're two separate statutes.
Right. But what's the minimum, like if we wanted to capture, can you
Yeah.
talk about the interplay of capturing?
Right, that I can talk about. I can't I can't advise you
No, I
on
know,
how
that's
to
what our
levy or what to
attorney-
say what the minimum or maximum you can do, but I can tell you what we will do with your levy once we receive it. As far as the way new property works, so new property is described in the statute as any new construction that's occurred within your district, as well as property that's being assessed at a higher assessment level than it was previously, and this can include things like property that used to be tax exempt and is now taxable. It used to be owned by the municipality and now it's owned by an individual. There's been no change to the structure, but now it's taxable, so it's new property that's available for you. So the other things that are included are things like expired incentives. Property that used to be, that's commercial property that instead of being assessed at the normal 25%, was being assessed at 10% for a number of years due to some agreement with the authority that gave it. It could be the county or it could be the municipality giving it an incentive. So when that incentive goes away and the property is now being assessed at a higher assessment level, that is new property available to your district. If you were to expand your boundaries, that annexed property
I'm
would
sorry.
be...
Excuse me.
Rich, can you turn off your phone? I'm sorry.
Sure. If you were to annex any new property, that new property...
I'm Nick, I'm sorry, I called you Rich. It's Nick from Rich Township. I apologize. Go on, Todd.
Sure. So any annexed property would be considered new property for your district, as well as any property that was in a TIF last year but is no longer in a TIF this year. That is considered new property as well. So what new property does is it increases the overall value base for your district. So if you were to do nothing with your levy and your value base has increased due to new property, every property in your district would see a lower rate.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, can you say that?
Sure. So if you've gained new property for any one of those examples I gave,
Whether commercial or residential?
commercial or residential, any kind of new property, anything that's that falls into those categories of new property, those are all increases to your value base. And if you do nothing to your levy, if you leave your levy flat, then your rate would go down. And your rate would go down for everyone, including all of the properties that were already in your district, and then the new property would be paying at that lower rate as well. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, we talked about that during the levy hearing last time, so that you don't, if you don't keep your levy at what it was at. then-
I thought it was, she's saying, yeah.
No, but if you do keep it
So
flat
that's
and you
what
get
I'm-
new property, then your rate would go down. So,
Right,
yeah.
right, so you would have to raise it in order to keep, if you wanted to keep.
Right, with the
Oh,
tax.
you're saying the property value would go down, not the.
No, the rate.
The rate.
The rate would go down. So that's if you keep your levy flat, but the values go
I
up
mean,
because.
flat at zero.
Flat at whatever, let's say it was 5 million last year. If you keep it the same as it was last year, and your value goes up, your rate would go down.
So to capture the new growth,
The
at
tax.
the rate that you were extending, you'd need to raise your levy in
Yes.
order to be able to maintain that tax going forward, which is what the board kept
That's
asking about last year.
Right, so that's what the tax cap law allows. It allows you to increase your levy more than the rate of inflation due to that new property without increasing your rate for all the people who are already in your district. So that increase over the rate of inflation is only being paid by the new property, but all the other properties in your district are just seeing basically the same rate. Now, obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same rate because there's too many other factors that go on, but assuming everything else was the same, then all the existing properties in the district would continue to see the same rate, and the new property would, and a new increase in your levy would be paid by the new property.
So if we, let's say, have 10 commercial people coming on the rolls, which we have at least, that Susie's gonna do a nice thing, we're doing a nice chart, but let's just say Park Ridge Memory Clinic is one of them.
Okay?
So when they come on rolls, if we increase our levy to 3.99 or 4.9, whatever the rate she's gonna suggest, it has to be the minimum PTEL rate, then that will capture, then the new construction is what pays for that.
Yes,
Not
anything
the
above.
homeowner, not the homeowner.
Right, anything over the rate of inflation would be paid for by the new property.
Okay.
And if we did not increase, let's say we kept it exactly as it was last year,
And everybody would go down.
because your base that you're taxing is larger.
You've got a larger
And
base.
that
Yep,
brings it down for everyone.
Yep, you're spreading your extension, the total taxable dollars that you're going to receive in tax revenue along a larger pool. So everybody's getting a thinner spread of the tax burden.
But paid by everybody, not just paid by the.
But paid by everybody.
But it's at the lower rate,
It's at that lower rate.
not at the regular rate and not at the increased rate. It's all.
Correct, I mean, obviously the rates are going to change, but
Right.
yes, all things the same,
All
yes.
things.
It would be lower than it would have been without the new property.
So anything over the rate of inflation, what are you using for the rate of inflation? for
The
this
rate of
year?
inflation for 2019 will be 1.9%.
And so what is the impact of if you don't use it, you lose it?
So
That we discussed last year.
right, so new property is only available to you in the year in which it is new. So if there's 10 new buildings this year and you don't levy to capture that new construction, next year you will not be able to. You can still levy at whatever its CPI increase is available next year, but you can't go back and increase your levy to account for the new property that happened in the previous year.
So we would never be able to capture the new construction other than this year.
The year that it occurs.
The year it came on the tax roll.
Correct. But next year, there might be some additional new property. So every year, we calculate new property again.
Wait, I'm just, sorry.
No, it's all right. Trustee McKenzie.
So when you say we wouldn't capture, the assessed value is captured.
It's there, but if you don't levy for it,
Yeah.
then you can never increase your levy to capture it in the following year.
Okay, but if you don't need to increase your levy, then
It's
really
completely
a
up to you.
point.
Yeah.
Okay. So the assessment for the, and it's not just commercial property, it's
It's all
all
property.
of the things that you mentioned. It could be residential as well.
Right.
Okay, so if there is an increase in property and those properties are, have assessed value, that goes into the calculation.
Yes, it still
No
goes in.
matter what we do to the levy.
Correct.
Okay,
It's just your
so
value
it's
basis.
only
is
if
higher.
we want to increase the amount levied or the taxes to the taxpayers that we would want the additional over the inflation amount.
Right.
Okay.
So, but that's the tax cap law allows you to increase your levy at that one time when there's new property. If you don't take advantage of that, and you don't have to, then you can decide later to do it. You cannot.
Right. Okay, so if your township, like the following year has some extraordinary need or needs change, you can't do it.
Right? No, you're constrained by whatever your value is in that year.
But it doesn't raise the individual residence amount, it just raises the commercial.
The new property.
New
Right, above CPI. Anything above CPI is, the rate of inflation, yes, is going to the new property.
New or commercial?
New, all new property.
So residential as well?
Any new property, right?
And but also by increasing the residents of Maine Township lose out on the overall reduction in taxes based on the broader base.
Right, if you don't increase the levy, then the rates would go down for everyone.
And that's lost to the taxpayer if we increase the.
Right, if you increase your levy, then the taxes.
Well, except though, it would be, the levy would be the same on all of the taxpayers if they only increase the levy to the amount that the new growth would pay for it.
Right, the rate would be the same, except obviously for the increase in CPI.
Right, the way that you worded the question, it sounded like it was going to be penalizing the residential taxpayers, but it wouldn't be. It would be freezing them at the same rate, and any increase would just be picked up by the new.
Right, this is super simplistic, but
Right.
yes.
But I'm not saying it's a penalty, I'm just saying that if we have an opportunity to keep the tax levy the same, if we were to do that, the taxpayers' taxes overall, to each of their properties would actually go down because of the benefit of the new properties that came on board.
I couldn't say whether or not the taxes would go down because we don't know what's happening with all the other districts and what's happening to the individual property values for those properties. But the tax rate for
Tax
your
rate.
district
So-
would go down.
So the tax rate would go down. Now, if we increase.
But that's not the taxes.
The tax rate. If we increase the levy by any amount, that tax rate reduction that would have been available to the taxpayer is lost, correct?
Yes, so yes, and if you're increasing your levy to take advantage of any new property, whether it be all of it or part of it, then yes, that is, you're not reducing your rate in that case.
Trustee McKenzie. You're not reducing your tax rate, but
Yeah.
you'd still be reducing your taxes.
It's possible.
Because you have a
yeah.
bigger
There's
group.
a lot of factors. It does depend on what's happening with the individual properties assessment, and we're being reassessed up here,
Right.
as well as what happens with the state issued equalization factor, what exemptions people are entitled to receive, and the tax rates of all the other taxing districts that those properties pay into.
Well, the other thing is if they increase their levy a nominal amount, but not to the maximum amount, the people who had previously been paying taxes would still have that reduction, even if there were an increase, because that would be picked up by the new portion?
It depends on, and I can't go too deeply into that, but it depends on how much of an increase you're doing, whether it's more or less than the rate of inflation. And it'd still be, you can still increase it up to the rate of inflation, but it depends on how much new construction you have and how much you're increasing or decreasing your levy.
And when would they be able to find out the amount of new construction that they have?
So we don't receive those numbers until shortly before we calculate your rates next late spring, early summer.
I'm working on that right now.
Yeah, the assessor may
Liz
have
are making a
additional
presentation.
So will they know that before they determine the
Yes.
levy?
The levy has to be done by then.
December 31, right?
No, I know that, but I don't know, but that's why I was asking.
Those properties are already listed.
Right.
And it's closed now
For first
Okay.
pass, yeah.
So yes, she and Liz kindly agreed to do us a chart. And they're working on it. It will either be in our special board meeting or at our regular November meeting, whichever. Because right now they're in the middle of the board review.
Yeah, the way the process works is the assessor goes out in the spring, early summer each year to determine the assessments. And if they do determine there's new construction, there's still various steps along the way where the property can be appealed directly to the assessor, to the board of review, before it's then sent to the state, who will issue the equalization factor. So it takes a long time before we actually get the final new property numbers, which are aggregated by the districts.
And that's the Cook County Assessor's Office.
Yes.
When you said you don't look at, I'm sorry, Tristan McKenzie, did you have a question? I didn't mean it. I'll forget this. When you said you don't look separately at GA as a taxing body
Right.
and the township as a taxing body, even though they do appear as two different taxing bodies
Right.
on a person's tax bill?
Correct. So we separate them out into two different agencies for the purposes of the bill, but they are one combined district with a single limiting rate. The limiting rate is the maximum rate that we calculate every year for the tax cap law. We calculate one limiting rate for the township and the general assistance fund. If you were to look at our beautiful report, I know, it's a great report.
I've never understood it, but
It's that career fund.
well, it doesn't seem to matter.
But if you do look, you'll see it'll say on the kind of the upper near the top on the right hand side, it'll say connected agency, and it'll list.
Right, but I do get separate ones.
You do get
for
separate ones, but if you
For
look at
road
your-
and for town fund.
Right, but if you look at your township agency report
Yeah.
and your general assistance agency report, they have the same limiting rate.
Right.
And their two capped rates at the bottom right of the report add up to about the limiting rate.
So does that mean the abatement to zero didn't have any effect?
No, it had an effect. It just all was reflected in that one agency.
But it affected the township as well?
It did, because it's got a combined, because you've got a combined extension for the two.
Huh. Okay, good to know. All right, Trustee McKenzie.
I think I answered my own question.
That was very well done. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Any other questions or?
I'm still not clear on this look back. So
Okay.
are you saying the look back has no effect? Or
It does
that-
have an effect.
It does have an effect because we can't go, if we go 105% over what
Right, so
that number was.
I'm going to stop you. You're comparing two different things. The 105% is the truth in taxation statute, okay? That's one part of the statute.
Okay.
The look back is part of the tax cap law,
Right.
which is a different statute. Okay. So the 105% is just whether or not you're required to hold a hearing when you present your proposed levy, whether or not it's 105% more than what you levied last year. Last year, specifically
Not
last
2006.
year. Yep, the 105% is strictly related to last year.
That's what I thought. Okay. I was just clarifying that.
The look back is a provision of the tax cap law that says that if you did reduce your levy last year, the clerk's office then, if your extension is lower last year than the previous year, then we are directed to use the highest extension of the last 3 years as the base, was 2016, as the base when we're calculating your rate for 2019. So we will be using your 2016 base to calculate your 2019 limiting rate.
And the benefit for that? The benefit
Right.
to that?
The
Thank you.
benefit to that is that you gave your taxpayers a reduced levy for a year and,
3.
or 2 years, right? And that you're still able to go back without losing completely without losing ground completely. There's a little bit, I mean, you weren't able to get the CPI increase over those last couple of years, but
2016 was our highest.
was your highest, so you can still use that 2016. So.
I'm sorry. What was the benefit?
The benefit is that you're able
Right, to
to,
go back to use the look.
yeah, you're able to reduce your levy for a year or 2 years without having to then be stuck down at that lower levy. You can
Right.
still go back up to what your prior level was from 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, if you need was still.
If we-
If the need was,
If the need was
and that's
there.
up to you, it's up to you to determine, right?
Okay.
But moving forward,
Moving forward, right, 2016 will no longer be available
Right.
as a base after 2019. So if your 2019 extension is higher than your 2018 extension, then in 2020,
Yeah.
we'll be using 2019 as your base.
Okay. I got you. Sounds very helpful.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? And, you don't have any questions? Comments? Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. Coming this way in this weather, and that was exactly perfect. All right, we're gonna interrupt our regularly scheduled time, as they say, to call Nick Bovis up to the podium. And he is a Rich Township trustee and president of the TAC Trustees Division. This is not a matter that needs to be
Thank
voted
you.
on or discussed.
Thank you very much, Madam Supervisor. It's indeed a pleasure to be here tonight and to recognize a couple of your trustees who continually come to our trustee division meetings, namely David and Susan, who are big supporters of the trustee division, and I'm sure carry back very good and significant information back here to the township. I also like to acknowledge your clerk, who's an officer in the clerk's division. So Maine Township indeed participates in the township officials of Cook County, which is very necessary for us to stand tall as townships. We need to not just strive to be alive, we need to thrive. And with all the criticism going on of townships, the kinds of actions and support that Maine Township does is very significant. I'm here tonight because I'm following an old tradition, and that is to recognize people who do things in an outstanding manner. Last year, a couple years ago, the Trustees Division initiated an idea of having ambassadors, having someone in each of the 29 townships who could help us trustees get the word out to their members about our various programs. And to that extent, Doreen Prorek has done that surpassingly well. And tonight I'd like to have Doreen come up and receive this award, which says, presents this award of special recognition to Assistant to the Supervisor, Doreen Prorek of Maine Township, for recognition of her ongoing prompt communications to our township board to improve attendance at our members' meetings. This action helps the division attain the goals and ongoing successes of the township officials of Cook County. On behalf of the Trustees Division of the Township Officials of Cook County, I'd like to present you with this recognition.
Hang on. And during, I think you gotta hold that up a little. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nathan.
All right, now, I'm gonna ask for an approval of the minutes of the September 24th, 2019 bill payment.
Motion to approve the minutes of the September 24th, 2019 bill pay review.
Second.
Have a motion and second, any discussion? Bill pay?
Oh, I'm sorry, not voting. No discussion.
Okay, hearing none, Clerk Viation, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moraes?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Marquez?
Yes.
Trustee Calabora?
Yes.
Trustee Sweetie?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the September 24th, 2019 board.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the Maine Township regular board meeting that took place on September 24, 2019.
I'll
Second.
Oh, okay. And having a motion and second, any discussion? Now, trustee Sweet.
A couple of amendments on page 3. After motion carried, which is halfway down the page, I would add recess at 59 minutes and 57 seconds, and then strike, seconded by trustee McKenzie, and strike below that, after motion carried on a voice vote. Supervisor Morask stated that she will withdraw her motion and the vote will be taken on trustee Sweeney's and trustee McKenzie's proposed motions. Replace with, Supervisor Morask stated that she reconvened the meeting out of recess and that there would be a vote on trustee Sweeney's amended amendment. See video at 1 hour and 14 seconds. On page 5,
Oh, wait, hang on. Why are we striking the stuff
I'll
about
pass
motion
it down.
recess and second? No, no, I'm just asking, why is that getting stricken? Trustee
the
Sweeney.
strike on Supervisor Morask stated. is that-
No, no, not that. You had asked to strike trustee, the whole motion to recess, I thought.
No, I'm adding recess at 59 minutes and 57 seconds. And strike the seconded by trustee McKenzie.
Why?
I'll give you a chance to look at, because it's not on video, it didn't happen. It was not seconded, and the verbiage
No,
used.
she made the motion for recess and I seconded it.
No, this wasn't in regards to the recess. This was after recess. When we reconvened, Supervisor Morask said motion to reconvene in the board meeting.
Okay.
What actually happened was Supervisor Morask stated that the meeting is reconvened out of recess and that there would be a vote on trustee Sweeney's amended amendment. There was no second to that, and we then proceeded to vote.
Okay.
I would second that because that's what the tape shows.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem
And
with
then
that?
page 5,
Wait, what about the next part?
Oh, replacement. That she reconvene the meeting out of recess and that there would be a vote on trustee Sweeney's amended amendment. Okay.
any clarification?
No.
Okay.
Then we
Page
vote
five.
no, right? Which is
Page 5.
Okay.
At the bottom, strike, the very last, second to last sentence. Carl Carabota, Park Ridge resident, expressed his opinion on not participation in the township's health insurance. And replace with, Carl Carabota presented for the record that he is not covered under Maine Township's medical insurance plan and that he carries his own insurance through his employer.
I would second that also based on the tape.
That's it.
I don't have a problem with either one. I think it's much to do about nothing. And so, okay. motion to approve is amended. Somebody?
Second, motion to, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to
I already
approve,
made the motion to amend it, yes.
so motion to approve, motion to approve the amendments to the Maine Township regular board meeting, dated of September 20, the minutes of September 24, 2019. Second,
I already
second.
said it, you seconded it.
Second.
I made the motion to amend it.
Second, all right, so we're all set.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Pacia, can you call them?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Marquez? Yes. Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I am requesting an approval of the minutes of October 1st, 2019, agency funding special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes of the October 1st, 2019 agency funding special meeting.
Second.
All right, having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call it?
Supervisor Moran?
Abstain?
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Marquez?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All right, and now I need a motion to approve general assistance expenditures in the Gastown, New York.
Motion to approve payroll for pay dates of October 4th, 2019, and October 18th, 2019, and general assistance checks number 52248 through check number 52304 in the amount of $553.21.
Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, everybody can you pass down your G8 bills?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Marquez?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the road district expenditure, approve payroll for pay dates of October 4th, 2019, October 18th, 2019, and road district checks 21071 through check 21107 in the amount of $118,109.20.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none.
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Marquez?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All right, now I need a motion to approve the general town fund expense.
Make a motion to approve payroll for pay dates of October 4, 2019 and October 18, 2019, and general town fund checks number 57185 through to check number 57257 in the amount of $310,773.14.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, isn't there
Oh,
further
no.
discussion?
Yes, there's an amendment, I'm sorry, I misstated. There is,
Well, that's okay, I mean, we have a motion and a second, there's some discussion. He's
let me,
talking.
yeah, right. The invoice for the Barton firm is being reduced to 6.75 hours at the rate as set forth both at the September 24th meeting, because those are the hours that were approved. So we're reducing that on its face to reflect
$1,012.50.
Yeah, right.
Which then changes the total amount to what?
Where we changing, what, if I read 1,001, it's check number.
57248, check number.
What was the amount, 1,000?
The fact
It
is,
was previously $2,212.50.
And what's the amount now?
$1,012.50.
Can somebody do that, man?
yeah,
David.
No, I need the total amount.
reduces it by the balance by $1,200, which would then reduce the total amount of the checks
Okay, you just need to subtract it from 310.
Right. I'm sorry, I was. So we take the 310,773.14, we subtract from that the 1,200. $309,573.14.
Okay, so are you amending your motion?
Yes, I amend my motion to approve the items as indicated, with the exception of the Barton draft being reduced from $2,212.50 to $1,012.50, which reduces the total amount to be spent to $309,573.14.
And then Susan, you're amending your second, correct? Or were you the
Yeah,
person
I have a
seconding
question
it?
on the contract rate for the legal fees on invoice number 57204 that you were going to verify.
Oh, is your fee 200 or 205? She's got it.
I would have to look at it.
The invoice is 205. I wasn't able to pull it up right now. I mean, in the time that, like, I went back.
I didn't recall that to be the rate, so that's why I was asking.
I'm sure if it's
Represent
not,
foreign governments, I just don't.
I'm sure if it's not,
Yeah,
I
I
get a
know.
credit, so.
Yeah, if we were to approve it subject to confirmation of the hourly rate,
Yeah,
would we do that?
that would be fine.
Would that be fine?
I don't think that needs to be in the,
And if it's overpaid, you can take it as a credit.
Yeah, times the hours that were billed. So, yeah, I would include that in my motion as far as that particular invoice for it would be approved subject to verification of the hourly rate. Would you amend your second?
Second.
But that was seconded by trustee Jones, so I didn't know this. So
oh, yeah, sorry, trustee Jones, it was seconded by trustee Jones.
So what, you want me to amend your, okay, to second the amendment? Is that what you're asking me for? Okay,
just second?
second?
That amendment, thank you. And can I get the check number?
Yes. 57204.
57201?
04.
Oh, thank you.
And again, the Barton Marketing Group draft was 57248.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Supervisor Moraz?
What?
I would also ask.
Oh, sorry. I'll recognize you, trustee Sweeney.
The CrossFit, we didn't finish talking about, but it says for one membership, but I'm assuming you're saying it's for more people than that for the.
That's my
entire class.
understanding.
So could I please get clarification on that?
Sure.
So that it reflected on the invoice that if it represents more than one person, because we're paying for an $800 sports membership. Otherwise, for one person, I think it's reasonable to ask, and people would be interested in knowing that.
I'm sure they will. All right. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Supervisor, can you take the roll?
Supervisor Moraz?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Oh, wait, with the understanding that the reason I am reducing Dick Barton's check is because we approved, the board approved 6.5 hours.
Right.
That was what was pre-approved. Okay.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Trustee Carpenter? Trustee
Yes.
Sweeney?
Yes.
Alrighty, we are up to public participation. Do I have it? Hearing none. All right, old business, discussion, but this was requested by trustee McKenzie and then somewhat later by trustee Sweeney. Discussion and vote on status and direction regarding IMRF, Susie Mylan Cry, pending appeal, and recent IMRF decision is presented by Attorney Mary Dixon, who was asked at the request of, I guess, Trustee McKenzie and Trustee Sweeney to spend the money to have her come and present to the board.
Also, for the record, I joined in that request as well.
Oh, I didn't see that, so.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come to address the board this evening about 2 issues regarding pending litigation involving the assessor's position and IMRF eligibility. The first, as the board knows, the IMRF decision in favor of Maine Township and against Ms. Mullen Cray is on appeal before the circuit court. We appeared in court on that administrative review last week, and the court set a briefing schedule. So the briefing schedule would have the parties brief the issue of whether the IMRF decision denying IMRF eligibility for the period in question is correct. The briefing schedule has us extended out to a clerk status in February of 2020, at which time the court will give us a hearing date if the briefing is concluded. Specifically, if you're interested, Ms. Mullen Cray's counsel has until December 2nd to file a brief on behalf of the township, and IMRF will be filing our responses to that on January 15th of 2020, with a reply to be filed on January 29th. And then again, as I said, there'll be clerk status, and at that clerk status date, it's just an opportunity for the parties to say whether the briefing is completed, and we'll get a hearing date. So there won't be anything new on that until probably closer into early March, I would say. The second issue is, as you know, on the same date in May that the IMRF issued a decision favorable to Maine Township on the issue of assessor eligibility for IMRF, it also changed its rules governing participation by non-elected or by elected non-governing IMRF members. Based on that decision, there was action taken in which the assessor was reinstated into IMRF. The township attempted to correct the record immediately. IMRF chose to go forward and grant IMRF eligibility to the assessor. That issue has been under investigation by IMRF, and on September 16th of this year, IMRF did issue its opinion based on its investigation, and as a result of its investigation, it determined that the assessor position in Maine Township was IMRF eligible again. And so I come before you tonight because that opinion was issued on September 16th, 2019. If the Maine Township would like to appeal the decision to IMRF, that appeal is due, I believe, November 18th. It's 63 days after the decision. I think that takes us to November 18th. And if you don't appeal, then that decision is final. So you can either appeal a decision to IMRF and go through the administrative process again, or in the alternative, in my legal opinion, you could take an appeal of that decision directly to the circuit court. And I'm just here tonight to determine either to open the issue up for some discussion or to get an idea from the board as to whether you want the decision of IMRF to stand or if you would like to appeal that yet again. And we can do that actually in open session, or if you'd like, because it is a matter of pending litigation, I'm sure you could secure an opinion from your counsel, but that would also be appropriate in closed session if you would like more freedom of discussion.
If I can be recognized?
Just a minute. Okay, yes.
And I would move that we take a vote on whether or not to appeal the decision and then to appeal it directly on the administrative level. And/or through the Circuit Court of Cook County, I'm thinking to appeal through the administrative process first. That's what I'm suggesting.
I'd like to make an amendment to that we authorize the attorney to file an appeal that's, whatever manner is legally best that it's
No,
determined.
she hasn't made any recommendations, so.
So I would,
But it's just a broader amendment to authorize the attorney to file the appeal in the manner that's legally best.
so,
Well, there's choice, but she's asking for guidance
second?
from
So-
you guys. Hang on.
yeah,
So you're amending her motion now?
no,
I'm amending Dave's.
I'm making a motion that we so proceed with the appeal, and my motion was to proceed by way of appeal through the administrative process. That was my motion, but then it was amended to reflect that we proceed with the appeal, but with Attorney Mary Dixon making the decision as to how we proceed, what's best to proceed forward, whether at the administrative level or directly into the circuit court of Cook County.
Well, or DuPage, actually.
I'm sorry, DuPage County. So that would be the amendment to my motion.
Why are we in DuPage County?
It can be in DuPage because IMRF's jurisdiction is also in DuPage County.
But your circuit court case is here.
That's a different circuit court case.
Okay, so
I'd
I
second
have
it.
some questions.
I would second that.
Okay. I have some questions. What are you recommending?
Well,
And I'm sorry, before I ask that, you and I have obviously talked at the last, at some prior board meeting. And this is, so the taxpayers are clear that this is the position of assessor going forward. It has nothing to do.
as of May
Right.
of this year.
Right. On May 19th, I believe it was.
Correct.
Okay. And that, I believe in that IMRF decision, which I'm going to be giving a copy of at any moment, that was written by the general counsel that I believe trustee McKenzie had dealt with before.
I'm not sure which opinion
The final decision of IMRF.
well, as of last May, which?
The one that just came down. The one that you're seeking guidance.
Yes, that was issued by the general counsel, Beth Janicki Clark.
Beth Janicki Clark. Right. The one who had previously written a letter and that we had been responded to before you got into, I mean, you saw the record, you compiled it. But I guess my point is, what's the legal benefit for this, given that the amount of money we paid you and that her pension is over, like it's exceeded what her pension can be?
Well, I don't know that for a fact. I don't know if anybody knows that here.
Okay,
Is that
all right,
true?
well, yes, it actually is.
I don't know that.
So, your cost going forward in appealing this, I'm just talking about this. I want, in the parameters of that, and I believe the current cost right now for, is either $39,000 or $42,000. So A, I want to know the likelihood of any success, which, given that very strong opinion, in my opinion, seems slim to none. And secondly, how would it be ever appealed to circuit court? And thirdly, what would be the proposed cost that they would add to taxpayers?
Okay. Now, to answer any of those three questions, which I don't mind, but I want you to know that you're an attorney, and your legal opponent is here. If you want to talk about...
I don't want to talk
your
in
legal-
closed session.
But, okay, if you want to talk about your legal strategies so that your opponent in litigation knows your strategy, that's...
It's not
should be up to the
strategy,
board.
it's literally the cost to the taxpayer.
Well, no,
Well,
I'm
you
gonna
have-
object to
you have
that.
several
We
questions.
have, we do have exceptions to open meeting act for these types of things. So if we're going to
Are you
get,
moving to go into closed session?
if we're going to be asking these questions, yes.
About the cost?
No one's asking.
Well, are we gonna ask about what the cost is on everything, all the aspects of this? Because this isn't the
Please
first
stop
line of
screaming.
costs. I'm not screaming, this is normal. I mean,
I think
You
those
gotta
are
compare
legitimate
apples.
questions.
and we can
And I have no desire to go into closed session because I think that the taxpayers should know. And I don't think it has any impact on strategy of the issue going forward. I'm not talking about the circuit.
I think it's, to get into that, may open up the door to certain strategies and certain options.
I'm sorry, I asked Ms. Dixon. I
I
assume you brought her here for a reason.
No, and I'm pleased to do this. I'm just, as your attorney, as the township's attorney on this matter, I feel that it is incumbent upon me, even though you are an attorney yourself, just to bring it forward that, you know, to discuss legal strategy in public is your right, and I don't mind, I will. But it's the township that should know that it's a discussion of that.
Okay.
Okay.
And we object to that, or I object to that, so.
So are you motioning?
I would move to go into closed session.
I'm sorry.
I move to go into closed session.
And is there a second on that?
I would like to make a comment before.
No, I'm sorry, you made a motion, and is there a second on that motion? And then you can comment on what.
Second. I'll second it.
Okay, so now
But I would
trustee
like to-
Sweeney
I mean,
and then
taking a
trustee
step back
Jones.
so that the public does understand what went on here is, we made the legislative decision, and I'm not going to elaborate on this is going to be very brief, but basically that was, upheld by the administrative court and the judge, which said that we did not certify the duties of the assessor as requiring 1,000 hours. And what had happened was that basically the benefits provider of IMRF took back that authority that we deemed appropriately we had to make that decision by changing the law going forward. And so, the fact is, it doesn't change our vote that we didn't certify the position as the duties requiring 1,000 hours. So, this is one of the reasons why we're back at, if we had the right to do that, and we did, and we made the decision as a board majority to that effect. And that was overturned then by starting it up again because of the new, IMF, you had a benefits provider coming back and saying, no, we have the legislative authority to determine the duties. That decision has been taken away from the board, yet we made that decision. So, that's why we're at where we're at right now.
Trustee Jones.
Well, I don't understand why we have to go in closed session for Mary Dixon to answer the question, what benefit this would have to the taxpayers. We have already spent between $39,000 and $42,000, and when you say you represent the board, you really don't, because a lot of the correspondence, you actually leave the secretary, the supervisor, and I out of. So
I don't agree with that.
yes, you have actually. You have.
No.
You have actually left us out of emails, correspondence, and so then that's not really a representation of the board. So that's a representation of these trustees, which, is not really fair. And it's also probably a little unethical.
I highly disagree with that statement. I ask you to be very careful of making that kind of
Especially when you
allegation.
counsel them on how to overthrow her as the agent, and you write the brief when you're representing all of us.
Well, I'm gonna object to that, because I think you're saying her is me, and that's not true.
So anyway, we have wasted enough money on this, $42,000, and I don't think we need to go and close, and that's just your cost. That's not the cost of our attorneys who actually has to check your work. And so,
Well, you guys do, I get billed.
Yeah,
We do
we
get
get
billed,
billed
just
by
so
both
everybody
attorneys.
knows, we get billed by both attorneys.
so,
We're not checking for
No, checking her work is probably.
I'm sorry,
They-
no,
yeah.
checking it, but in
She's
other words,
finishing and then I'm
she
going.
is, so in other words, we're paying 2 attorneys for the same issue, and the taxpayers are getting no benefit from this long term. So, well, what's the benefit?
The answer
Well,
is,
that's- I'm trying to get married.
the answer is we wouldn't be here if the board wasn't backdoored. When the board said no, it was backdoored with IMRF where we were overridden and we had no knowledge
you're in
of
the
it.
circuit court,
Till
it is
months
nothing.
later, when a letter was handed to us from the IMRF, there are actions taken by certain board members in coordination with the assessor and the
That's your
IMRF, to go behind
You're the
our
one that
backs
wanted
and
to
do
Pay
this.
actions
And the paid
that were
pensions,
not
we said no.
authorized.
So we either take it in the chin or we fight for the
Okay.
cash.
Right, I understand.
And
So-
there's nothing unethical that Attorney Dixon has ever done, and I really think you should withdraw that statement.
Well, I'm not going to.
So, here's my question. In your building, there is a conference call with trustees Carabota, McKenzie, and Carrie Lynn. And Carrie Lynn's bills do not reflect that she was part of that conference call. So, we were not part of this conference call.
I don't know
And
what conference call you're talking about.
it's in her building, you just
I've
approved it.
never been on a conference call with Carrie Lynn and Mary Dixon.
Okay, well, maybe you should look at the bill.
Why don't you tell us what bill it is?
Why wasn't it
It's
brought
the
up in
one
bill pay?
literally
It should have been
just-
brought up in bill pay. What are we doing? This is
I
improper.
didn't sign
Highly
it, that's
improper.
why I didn't sign it.
And you approve the billing, we approve the billing.
No, I didn't approve her long ago. I did
You-
not
you
sign it.
approved the bill
All the
billing.
bills, and you approved of all the bills
Just
before you
a
presented
half an
them
hour,
to
40
us.
minutes ago.
Actually.
Let's move on.
No, I'm not, but that is part of her bill. I don't
And
think
you
Mary
approved it.
Dixon- No, I approved the bill because just like
So you approved the
guys-
bill.
Yeah, I approved the
Thank you.
bills. Because unlike, I'm not gonna spend the taxpayers' time and money and spending here, and because having Mary Dixon cost another $1,000 to come here. So I really did ask a pretty simple question, and I don't understand why this part of the board doesn't want the taxpayers to know the cost. You're always talking about being transparent, and I don't understand this, what Dave's talking about has nothing to do with this opinion.
I would
Yes,
call-
it does.
I would call
Yes, it
the vote.
does.
I call the
Can
vote.
I be, no, you can't call the
I
vote.
just did.
That is not how it works when not everybody has gotten a chance to comment. That is simple Robert's rules. So please, either pipe down or I will have to remove you. I'm not
Wow.
kidding. No, because
Wow.
you can't just.
You're the one that did it, is why we're in front of the IMRF.
Yeah, you can keep saying that.
Well, can we just get to whether or
I'm-
not this is a litigation matter that can be dealt with in closed session?
There's a pending motion.
Let her speak.
I'm speaking
So
in
that
discussion
we
on
get to
that
that.
motion.
On whether or not to go into
Yes.
closed session?
Yes, that I see your hand. I see your hand, but I'm not done. I had asked what the cost projection, what her opinion, because it seems like a pretty damn strong opinion to me, being a lawyer, as I think it did to Carrie Lynn, being a lawyer. And it's an administrative proceeding, and it was IMRF who changed that rule of legislative determination going forward. Did a really long analysis about 29 out of 32 townships, blah, blah, blah. You've read it, and we'll post it if you want, but it is pending litigation, potentially. So I literally do not see, we're asking the cost projections, or what would be the benefit to the township of doing this is in any way, shape, or form, giving up any strategy. I'm not talking about the case pending in circuit court. So I would be totally against closed session because I don't think it's appropriate. I think the taxpayer should know. Trustee Sweeney.
We are elected officials. We voted. The board majority voted. We've been stripped of what a vote was by your action to reinstate pension benefits against our will.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yes, we are.
Yes, it is.
No, it
That's
isn't.
what we're talking about.
We are not representing taxpayers, to answer your question.
It
You
is
asked what
that.
the benefit is to taxpayers?
It is
Taxpayers
not
are
representing-
electing people that they voted for. They voted us in, we made the determination, and now you don't want to honor that determination because you reinstated pension against what we previously voted. It's very simple. We're correcting that. We're taking it all the way through. Otherwise, how can people trust who they elect?
But that's not what happened.
Well, we're talking about whether or not
saying-
to talk about pending litigation in closed session. not about a specific question. Not about
I
whether or
can't
not
get my
strategy
specific.
is the question or not, it's all
You're the
pending.
guys that keep
all
releasing
pending-
all of these things that should be a subject of closed session, not me. I've literally just asked the cost.
What are we releasing? What are you talking about?
Each of you are telling, your interpretation of what has occurred.
So release to who?
Facts.
I'm
I don't know
sorry.
what you're talking about.
Wait a minute, we're not in public participation right now, okay? So.
I think we should have the right for our public to be.
Not right
It's not
now.
at the moment.
Not at
Okay,
the
but
moment.
acknowledge that at some point, the public should be able
Can we
to
just
have an
two
opinion before there's a vote.
questions answered?
I guess
You
this
can't
board
because there's a
is
motion
not.
pending. There's a
There's
motion pending, and I
Oh,
call
and I
the roll.
said absolutely can call the roll.
Let's call the roll.
And I second go into closed session.
Yes, let's call the roll.
And then we'll continue from there. Deviation. There is a motion and a second to go into closed session.
To do what?
Go into closed session.
And they didn't specify an
Right.
exception, so they better.
You specify the closed session for us.
Pending
Pending
litigation,
litigation.
122C11. Or pending or potential litigation, you have both.
So that's the motion you're taking about it. You can call the roll.
I still want to hear what the benefit to taxpayers is.
Well, that's what we're,
not
first we have to
strategy.
vote on
You can't,
this.
the vote's been called. I called it,
That's
it's
not
done.
strategy. That's not how it
Call
works,
the-
Dave. I mean, it's simple. I don't
do you
understand why you
call?
don't
Yes.
All right, everybody, let's just take this vote.
Supervisor Morask?
Absolutely not.
Trustee Jones?
No, I'm not going to do that. This is,
Trustee
it should be
Mackenzie?
transparent.
Yes. Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so we will be back. Well, 9:35.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion.
Now, wait a second. Deanna, can you take the roll?
Supervisor Morask?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Mackenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
I'll recognize you now.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to authorize our attorney, Mary Dixon, to file an appeal in a manner that is legally best and with specificity if necessary.
Second.
Having a motion, a second, now it's open for discussion, so I was told that, yes, I can ask about cost in open session. So,
There's a lot more than that.
well, no, that's what I'm asking.
That's cherry picking, not what you're having.
I'm sorry.
It is always hard to estimate what an appeal will cost because it is predicated so much on what your opponent's brief and how many court appearances are required. But I think that it would be safe to say that the cost of the appeal of this issue would be in the range of $15,000.
Okay, 15,000 more dollars, and that's to what? IMRF or to circuit court?
Either.
Okay. And, and you, what is the ultimate if any, since from benefit that could accrue to the taxpayer of Maine Township, given that the IMRF decision, which is public,
Yes.
is with respect to a revocation of a certification rule. What
This
is
has
the
nothing to do
benefit?
with the revocation of the certification rule.
And also, Jack,
That has nothing
we
to do
covered
with
this in
that.
closed session.
Can, but
We
I
covered this
know,
in closed session,
you can object all you want.
so I think it's improper.
Okay, good. So my question is, what, at the end of the day, first of all, would be the timeframe, if that you would project?
This was all covered in the closed session.
Yes, I know, I want the public to hear it.
Why set a session? Why have a closed session?
I didn't,
Because the
this is
problem
why
is-
it's for open session, because I want transparency. I didn't vote to go into closed
Then
session.
why are you reviewing what you did in the closed session?
Well, really, I was told this is appropriate, so
You all
there,
know.
first of all, Mrs. Garabota, I really don't want everybody shouting out, so please, if the public, and if we want to have public comment, we certainly can do that, but I'm just trying to get a projected now time.
My concern
Well,
is
the
your-
time frame, to the extent you talk time frame, the time frame again is hard to predict because it depends on the nature of the briefing put forward by any of the parties, and they may request continuances. But as an example of the time frame, if I remember the dates correctly, and don't hold me to this in case I have, I wasn't coming prepared with that question, but when we went before the IMRF through the administrative process the last time, I believe that I filed a statement of claim on behalf of Maine Township at the end of June. I believe we got to the end of briefing, perhaps by February, let's say.
Of the following.
And we got the ruling in May. Now, part of that was because when we filed our statement of claim in June, at that point in time, the only party to the proceeding was Maine Township. And at that point in time, when the statement of claim was filed, it was sometime later that the assessor engaged counsel and sought leave to intervene, which is appropriate and right. But as a result of that late filing of the intervention and then time sought to provide a response, and then everything had to get changed, because if you remember, the whole process in the first case was reversed. And so, because of the way it proceeded. So then IMRF had to change, they flip-flopped everything back. So if you don't have all that flip-flopping, you know, it'd be less time than it took us last time, but, you know, probably would be 3 or 4 months, I would say.
3 or 4 months?
Potentially, yes.
And that's what you believe, this litigation?
If you went through the IMRF appeal process, if we start off on the, you know, if we start on the right foot, it should be a little bit more expeditious than it was last time. Last time it started off on the wrong foot and it had to be changed midstream.
This is for the IMRF portion, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're in the discussion.
So earlier I mentioned.
I'm going to recognize Trustee Jones.
Earlier I mentioned that you say that you represent the whole board, but I don't believe that's true.
I know that. I know that.
Right, because of the bills, because we haven't been included, Supervisor Moran. So I have the bill from 6/6/2019. On May 20th, there's correspondence to Carolyn Craftfire regarding IMRF decision. On May 22nd, draft resolution designating authorized agent correspondence to and from Trustee McKenzie regarding IMRF status authorized agent designation. So in other words, you were drafting a resolution for Trustee McKenzie to become the corresponding agent for authorized agent, leaving the supervisor who was the corresponding, who was the authorized agent. So how is that ethical? You're authorizing, you're pitting the same board which you're representing, one side against the other. And there's more.
Well, if I could address.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Please. May 24th, 2019, telephone conference with Carrie Lynn Craftfire regarding Maine Township meeting and review agenda. May 28th, telephone conference with Carrie Lynn Craftfire, Perth Asperth, meeting legal issues. May 28th, 2019, draft letter to IMRF regarding rescinding prior certification. Again, We were not included. You can't represent the whole board and leave part of the board out and work against them. May 29th, 2019, telephone conference with reporter. Who gave you the authority to do that? IMRF. May 30th, 2019, telephone conference with Trustee McKenzie, Carrie Lynn Craftfire regarding IMRF status. This is why I think we have spent enough of taxpayers' dollars, especially because you're not representing the board, you're representing 3 trustees who have a political agenda. As you said,
the audience has to stop interrupting. I will give you public comment.
I will.
And I think that Dave has to stop interrupting.
I didn't interrupt anything, keep going.
I'm asking, requesting that this bill be part of the minutes in its entirety.
Well, I believe my bill is always part of the bills that are available to the public
But with my
inspection.
comments and full.
But if I can answer that, you know, I should say, I contact the village, or excuse me, I contact the township's attorney, because and maybe I'm wrong, and I won't any longer. But when
But
there's
that's
a
not
legal,
what I'm talking about.
you've
That's not what I'm
referenced,
talking about.
excuse me, if I can answer your question, you've referenced telephone calls or correspondence to Ms. Craftheffer. If it is a legal issue affecting the township, or I look to Ms. Craftheffer for legal guidance, she's your attorney. If you would prefer, well,
let me interrupt you, please, because you're being obtuse intentionally. And
I'm
the reason
answering your question.
the question is regarding why you're drafting resolutions designating an authorized agent with Trustee McKenzie regarding IMRF's status, authorized agent's designation, without the rest of the board's even knowledge of this. And you're working against the other half of the board. How do you do that? And you're charging us for it. And then you did it again, draft letter to IMRF regarding rescinding prior certification. How is that ethical? How is it ethical to work one side of the board against the other? You're representing the 5 of us, and yet you're drafting authorization for Claire McKenzie to take the certification away from the existing authorized agent. And you're not representing us then, are you? You're not representing this half of the board when you're doing things like that.
Well, when there is...
And you're not instilling trust.
When there is...
I have one final thing to
Can I
add.
please just answer Ms. Jones? She's made a lot of allegations that I would like to answer.
There's one more bill, but there is one more bill, that being this month's September 24th telephone conference with trustees Carabota McKenzie and Carrie Lynn regarding IMRF issues. And it was for almost an hour. Carrie then did not bill us for that. She doesn't have any recollection of ever talking to Carabota.
No. It's not an implication that she was on that telephone call. It's a bill that I telephoned Carrie Lynn. I will no longer call your township attorney if there's a
That's the point I'm
question.
making, and you know that.
No, that's exactly one of the points you're making. So I
One
won't
of them.
call. I will
You're not
not
addressing
call.
the important point.
Okay, I will not call your township attorney. I will tell you, I oftentimes represent legislative bodies where there is a disagreement on the board. Oftentimes, it's great if you get unanimity of the direction that the legislative body wants to go. Sometimes there's not unanimity of direction of the body. When there is not unanimity of the direction of the body, the only thing we as attorneys can do is take direction from the prevailing majority. That's what we do. So when a vote is taken, or when a majority of a body wants to take a particular direction, the attorney takes the direction of the prevailing body. Now, when we were talking about authorized agent, the reason that discussion came to me was because at the time, at that time authorized agent was alleged to have taken action that was in contradiction to the legislative pronouncement of the board.
Exactly.
And I was called to ask, can the authorized agent take action that is against the legislative authority of the board? In my opinion, the authorized agent has a fiduciary obligation to the legislative authority to act in a manner in keeping with that legislative authority. And at that time, a determination was made and communicated to the board afterward that it behooved the legislative body, the employer, to have a different authorized agent. Now, I have done the best I can to communicate to the board. There have been circumstances in which I have communicated solely with the authorized agent. That is proper. The authorized agent has obligations to IMRF. Authorized agent has obligations to the employer. The authorized agent, as you would agree, I think, Ms. Morask, you took action without consultation with the board because you were the authorized agent. Your current authorized
No,
agent.
I actually won't agree with that. You're talking about the other case.
But I'm
Not
saying,
this case.
but I'm
I'm
saying
talking
the
about this
authorized agent.
And Ken, I think you are being a little bit not wanting to answer why all the board is not included in emails.
Well, if you don't want individual trustees to
That's
have,
not-
that's
no, wait,
not
if you,
what we
no, if you would just let me finish, if you don't want individual trustees to have the authority to contact me, then make the ruling and I will never take any telephone call from any individual
Well,
trustee.
there is
again.
a board policy about that.
Okay,
No,
Now.
Yes?
no.
Okay.
How would you know, Diane?
All right.
She comes every meeting.
Okay. Just everybody yell whatever
that's
they
easy.
want.
I won't talk to, if a trustee calls me with a question, I will not take the call. That would be easy.
No, what Kim is saying is what we said to your cohort, who was here at a prior meeting.
My partner, Sean Conway.
Yes. I had asked a simple question, like, can I get any of this documentation that we did not get?
No, I've provided, when you have made the request to me, I have provided you that information. And I think that night, as a matter of fact, because Mr. Conway had to come in my stead because I had to take a different client matter, he came prepared, and I think that he answered that. It had been, and if you want, I'll show it to you again. But I had answered
But,
all of your questions
like,
before, and I
going
will
to-
answer all of your questions again.
Going to this one,
Okay.
what we're here for.
Well, if I knew there were questions on the bill, which when there were,
Well,
I have answered all the questions on the
assumed that
bills.
Trustee McKenzie, being the lawyer that hired you, would.
Wait a minute, the board hired
Yes.
Mary Dixon.
No, three people
No.
of the board.
The board majority, he acted as a majority, not as individual.
Oh,
We act as a majority.
is that really? Okay.
Yes, if you look at the code,
Uh-huh, all right,
that's
I
the
don't
way
think
it
that's
works.
what you want to say.
Gosh.
Alright,
It's
so,
not a dictator.
yes, well, no, but I don't think that it's really, appropriate and I really, I don't stand in ceremony. People can call me a lot of things, and they do. As long as my partner used to say, they don't call me late for dinner. But, honestly, to have to, find out sixth hand that, they want you to come to a meeting that then the township is gonna pay $1,000 for? Come on, that's crazy.
Well, that's a discussion.
That is a decision by them.
And that didn't happen anyway, though.
It definitely, no, we're done. I'm an
Oh, we're
elected
done.
I'm a trustee of a question.
Well, would you like Donna Adam to speak? Or would
Yes, I
you
would
like
like Donna
to
Adam to
speak?
speak,
Okay,
but I'm not going to forego my point.
I'm sure you won't. I will allow, because, we don't usually allow public comment, but, and we have about another 2 hours to get through. Okay, please introduce yourself and
Hi, my name is Donna Adam, and I'm from Des Plaines. I followed this issue from the very beginning, and actually this is a lot of legal talk that is going on. But from the very beginning, this issue, when it came up about the IMRF, it was done underhanded and not given to the whole board. And then 3 of the trustees here basically brought
We're
this...
not talking about that.
Brought this-
You're not supposed to interrupt or edit public
brought
comment.
this out into the open and basically said that we're going to hire someone so that justice will be done. As a taxpayer, I believe that I would be willing to pay the entire amount of the reserve that's out there. I don't care that if it's 15,000, I don't care if it's 50, and I always care about saving money for this.
I'm sorry.
Can't interrupt public comment.
For justice to be done in this case.
That's not
You
this
can't
case.
interrupt public
Hang on,
comment.
I
You
just
can't
want
edit public comment.
Continue.
Continue.
And so everything that's happened and every meeting that we have, it is, you know, if the public looks at this, the public can see very clearly that that we all know. I mean, it's common sense that this lawyer here has been hired in order to make sure that justice is done for the entire board. And when Trustee Jones says you're not representing the board, well, I know that we're representing the majority. That is common sense. From the taxpayers sitting in the seat here. And I would be willing to pay whatever cost it would be to see this issue through. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You didn't want to make a public comment?
No.
Okay, so there is, just to be clear, no more yelling out from the audience, okay? By anybody. I am not singling out anybody. All right, I have a few comments.
Susan had a...
I'm sorry.
I've had my hand raised.
Trustee Sweeney, by all means.
I think the sentiment that Donna just expressed
Right, from
is...
the 3 people here.
No, it's not for the 3 people, it's for the taxpayers. We were elected as a board, we're elected officials. What happened was, we made a decision, and that decision was not honored. It was taken away. We are fiduciaries, we are responsible. If we just allow this to continue, what does our vote mean? We have to see this through. Because the fact of the matter is, when IMRF took the legislative authority back away from the governing body of the township, they not only did it for Maine Township, they did it for the entire state of Illinois. And it's no coincidence that it happened on the same day that we won our ruling. So we were right in the legislative decision that we made. The administrative board and the judge ruled in our favor. We won that case. And then, after that fact, it was all taken away from us. We put a new administrative agent by Trustee McKenzie in charge of this.
No, hang on.
We all confirmed, when I say all, I mean the majority of the board that voted for this, that we wanted to honor our previous vote, which was that we do not think the duties of the assessor require 1,000 hours a year. That authority has now been taken away from us. That authority has now been given back to IMRF.
Okay.
So, I'm not finished. So if we allow benefit providers to take back that authority, would we also want Blue Cross Blue Shield or some health insurance company making decisions, legislative decisions on behalf of our board? I don't think so. So we had that legislative authority, we no longer have that legislative authority. And now, nor do any of the municipalities around us, be it Park Ridge or Des Plaines or Elk Grove, it's gone.
And none of them are appealing.
And none of them are appealing. So what we're appealing is the issue that was taken away from us, even though we already voted on it.
Which, just so everybody knows, in 180 days, prior to the next election, 2021, April, so this board decides the benefits, the whatever of the next board. So what we are solely talking about, like everything that that side of the board keeps talking about, is related to the prior circuit court. This doesn't. This is that they changed the rule going forward, and that here are my comments. I don't want to be interrupted. I find it absolutely shameful that this board would not approve $40,000 of raises for a consolidated, thin to the bone.
We approved $384,000 in benefit.
I literally just said,
That has nothing to do with this issue.
I am allowed to make, according to our attorney, previous Kurt, who also is with Carrie Lynn, any comment I want. And it does, actually. So if the money is so, I have made many, so the fact that we can't give $40,000 in raises.
We did.
We gave $400,000 in raises.
Again,
The 40,000.
Opportunity costs that
no, you can say whatever the hell you want, but
Okay, good.
no, but not a repetitive. You can't grandstand, and you can't do that. I am not. I mean, we are discussing this.
Then why don't you position how we positioned it? Why there were two sides to that story? Because you're bringing up a whole nother issue. We're talking about the ability to decide the
This is
legislative
what
authority
I
and
want
to
to
decide on pensions
I
paid
don't have to go
out on the taxpayer's dime. It's the taxpayer's money.
what I
You're
wanna
bringing
say.
up raises.
I can say what I want to say.
Okay, then I can go on and tell you exactly why I voted the way
Go
I
on
did.
for hours if you want.
Right, and the benefit to the employees that was far beyond what raises would
Okay,
ever.
ever gonna stop interrupting?
Well, I just think
I'm
you're mischaracterizing, and
officially
you're setting this up, and I think it's just very disparaging, and it's not fair.
It's not yet. It's true. It's not disparaging. It's true.
You just said we didn't give the 40,000.
You didn't.
You
When
didn't,
we
you gave
did.
32,000.
You did
did
a
not get
bucket of
40,000.
30,000 and turned 15 people from raises to bonuses. So you did.
You know, I guess you're okay with giving the legislative authority away, and that we shouldn't be able to decide the duties of jobs. We should give it away to benefit. I think that's what you're saying. What you're saying is you want us to be silent. And you actually
I'm
believe
saying-
that the authority should be taken out of our hands to make decisions when we're elected officials of the Maine Township Board.
Tell me when you're done. You done?
I didn't start it yet.
Well, you're not going to, so I'm not going to call it. You've already had one opportunity to speak.
No,
Alright.
I'm waiting to
I
respond.
guess
to
we
what
don't have
you're
a
saying.
pension problem in the state either. We have no pension
It's
problem.
also a mischaracterization, but what else is new?
This isn't even said anything yet.
So this board claims they want to be very transparent. And nothing has been transparent. And I think that we have worked so hard that it's incredible to me that for 6 months, like slaving away and trying to get the minimal type of increase for our employees. I think that was, and Donna was against it, the public opinion. And now, we'll go to the mat to be the test case for a case that is about IMRF going forward, and every single person in this room knows what I previously said and what is the case with respect to reduction of pension benefits while a person's in office. That's a different issue. But all we're talking about is appealing an administrative case. So I think 15,000, first of all, is a very low number based on, and Ms. Dixon, with all due respect, you did obtain some continuances as well.
No.
Yes,
Okay.
you did, based on an emergency that resolved itself the following day. You did.
My father was in the hospital.
I understand, and then the next day,
Okay.
You're so
I understand.
terrible. You're just terrible.
I'm
No,
sorry.
but then
I'm sorry.
she
My
actually-
89-year-old father was in the
no, wait a
hospital.
minute.
And
You
I
said
asked
at
for-
the board meeting of IMRF,
I did.
you
My
went.
father was in the
You
hospital.
went. You had actually said you weren't going to be able to brief it, which was totally understood. Everybody understood somebody's father in the hospital. And then you ended
Apparently
up.
not.
Can we call the vote,
Yeah,
please?
call the vote, and call the vote.
Can we please call the vote?
Continuances are a nature of the beast. And I think it's a little disingenuous to say that the legal fees depend on what the opposition's lawyer does. Obviously, I mean, that's in every legal case. But, you know, from what we've discussed, this possibly could end up in a different county as totally separate litigation. And I think it's absolutely, when we have to literally approve every item, you know, this board likes to micromanage every cost decision that comes, you know, up to like whether or not the news information person, which I agree with on this particular one, but I wasn't part of the original vote. But I mean, honestly, this is a road, and it's not because of who the assessor is. It has nothing to do with that. This opinion is, and we'll post it, it's public, and it really is based on, in my opinion, and I have a right to say this, based on politics, and in my opinion, one of the reasons the IMRF board rescinded that prior certification rule was that they recognized that. And every future decision does have to comport constitutionally. There's a million other examples besides the salaries that I could cite.
I disagree.
Well, you can disagree all you want,
Right.
but
I'm
you
on record
also
saying I disagree
need to
with you.
stop.
That's not why IMRF did that.
It's in the statement of
no.
account.
That's why I'll post the decision. And, you know,
You can post the other one too?
what other?
The one we want.
Sure, that's already on there.
There's both of them.
You guys already made sure that's on.
8-0, board decision.
Yes, and the same day they changed the vote.
Yeah, why?
Why?
Not because I asked them. I mean, really? I must be really powerful.
I call the vote, please.
You can't.
Yes, you can.
No.
At 10:10, I think I can.
It doesn't.
Attorney Croctember, I think we can call a vote. That's a Robert's Rules of Order.
If everybody has
had-
had an opportunity to comment once, then he can call the question.
And I've asked for that, and so has Dave, because we have.
Oh, I understand. So, now that I'm done, I'm happy to call the question.
There we go, so.
Because I think everybody has had an opportunity and knows where they stand. But I don't even understand the vote, the motion.
I moved that we authorize our attorney, Mary Dixon, to file an appeal In the manner
Where?
that is legally best.
She takes the path that's legally best, whether it's through
Whether it's the
IMRF.
circuit court
Or
or
through circuit court.
IMRF.
And I second that.
And can I amend? I'd like to amend the motion to have Mary Dixon file the appeal in the circuit court.
So DuPage County.
Of
DuPage
DuPage.
County, I'd second that. Okay, call the vote on the amended motion.
So the motion is to then have pending litigation in 2 different counties.
We read the motion's really clear, I call the vote.
I want to
I call the
explain, you can do that. It's a
The-
different motion, it's amended. So, we're discussing it, whether you like it or not.
I'm just
So-
calling the vote for the record. You do what you want. Go ahead.
Yes, I know, I'm the supervisor, I get to run the meeting. So, my point is, to make it clear, then we will have pending litigation in 2 separate counties.
Cook County, because Cry sued us, and because we're now appealing and we have to appeal on DuPage on the administrative. So we have one coming at us that we're defending,
No,
and
it
we have one that
isn't
we're
exactly
appealing.
what was said.
It's a fact.
No, that isn't. You can appeal in the administrative body, which was described, quote unquote, as the safest route.
The Cook County one is Cry suing us.
That has nothing to do with what you
That has
said.
nothing
You
to
said
do.
2 different cards.
Yes.
Cook and DuPage, that's what it is. We're Cook with Cry, and we're DuPage with the
So, I do want to ask, is your estimate, Ms. Dixon, still the same?
I believe so.
That you'll be done in 3 months in DuPage County?
Oh, there's no
and-
guarantee. You're putting words in her
No,
mouth.
she said, I'm sorry.
You were very clear.
Your question was an estimate
Mr.
for
Rush.
IMRF.
You can mutter, I am going to have, you can't keep doing that, Trustee Carabao. You just can't.
Why do you keep being able to ask the same question? I'm wondering why this.
Because I don't get an answer.
And then you start amending the answer.
I don't have to answer to you, Miss Dixon. So, going that route, do you expect, number 1, the cost to be higher, and number 2, because the way you described, there would be some briefing involved in the beginning that would have to be done before the main event. And you had described a minute ago that in IMRF it could be expected to be, and maybe that was enclosed.
It could be, it's very hard, it's very hard to predict cost. It's very hard to predict timeline. I don't control the timeline, certainly, and cost, again, I can attempt to control that, and I think I do control it, and I think that I provide a very good legal service at a very economical cost to my
I would concur
clients.
with that.
I think that if you took a survey of most
You
governmental
really
attorneys,
have to stop just throwing out stuff.
I'm answering your question.
Not you, Trustee
then I
Singh.
concur.
She's interrupting.
I'm sorry, I thought you were
No,
talking to me.
I wasn't.
So I'm mindful, I think our law firm has built its reputation on being mindful of costs to government because they're costs ultimately borne by the taxpayer. So I think our hourly rate is more than reasonable in comparison to other firms of our stature who represent local governmental entities. And I think that when we litigate, which we do on a regular basis, I think we're mindful again on proper pleading and argument, again, with the end result to be the best result that we can get for our client at the most economical cost. But I can control what I do. I can't control what anybody else does. So I can tell you that I think the estimate is still probably the same. But I can't control that. And I can't tell you what the judges, I don't know if we went to a court, I don't know who the judge would be assigned. I don't know what anyone who would be on the other side of the case would say. There are many, you're an attorney yourself, there are many outside forces that play a role in cost and time. And at the end of the day, this is, it's just a decision of the board.
Okay. So, Viesha, thank you. I'm not sure that Viesha, do you want to call the roll?
Supervisor West?
Absolutely 100% no. I think this is an outrageous expenditure of taxpayer money.
Trustee Jones?
I have to say that I finally did get the answer to the question I asked at least 10 times, several times out here and then multiple times in there, that the projected fees would be somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000, but that's on top of the fees fighting the other appeal, and also the $42,000 that we've already spent. So I don't think that it's fair for the taxpayers to bear that amount over something that really is not going to benefit them directly. So, no.
Trustee Mackenzie?
What we're doing has nothing to do with what's fair for the taxpayers. It is a decision based on what, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. This is my vote. My answer is yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Forget it. Let's just go.
The-
It's 10:15. I'd like to get out of here.
Looking to the information that was provided, thank you, Ms. Dixon, over this last 45 minutes, was mirrored the repeated answers that I've heard earlier this evening. There was nothing new, nothing exciting. You've answered every question, even though it's been asked of you multiple times from two directions. It's extremely important, not only for the current, but for the future, that board members that have a responsibility to the taxpayers, the people that vote. We represent a whole bunch of people here in Maine Township, right? The Maine Township residents. We have to stand up for their rights. Maine Township residents had the right to say yes or no to pensions to elected officials on this board. And they sent us in here to make that decision. I made that decision. That decision was undermined secretly. And then somehow, the IMRF, after the fire was started, the law firm of Mary Dixon came in with the greatest fire department in the world. They did a great job. They put the fire out, and the IMRF ruled 8-0 in our favor. But then all of a sudden, wow, what an amazing thing. Within 15 minutes of that ruling, they changed the rules and took the power away from the boards. No. Illinois taxpayers are not going to take it. We're taking our state back. We're going to start by township, no matter how little it is, by school board. Everywhere, we're going to take our state back. And while I have the authority to make a difference, because isn't it amazing, you can scream at your TV and scream at your, I never thought there'd be a day in my life that I had the actual power to try to make a change. And it was given to me by the people. And I was really blessed with that. And I'm going to stick by that. I made a decision, I said no. I stand with that decision that it should be no. I thank Ms. Dixon and her law firm for all the work that they've done. And I look forward to putting out the fire started in Cook County, and now the additional fire started in DuPage. Thank you. I vote yes.
Thank you. I want to make sure you yes. I also vote yes. I also vote yes, and would just like to add, as I've said in many comments before, can't add much to what Trustee Carabota just had said, but basically the taxpayers elected us. We are to make decisions. We did make the decision not to certify for what would qualify for pensions based on what the duties require, and to see that that legislative authority has now been taken away from us, and we were undermined, and it was taken away from us as a board when we voted against certification is wrong, and I don't think anybody that elected me, and I personally feel as my fiduciary responsibility, would agree that I should stand down on this. I mean, I support that we have to pursue this. It's the right thing, and it affects not just Maine Township, it affects all the governmental bodies across the state of Illinois where the legislative authority rests.
You vote.
I vote yes.
We're done with that item. Next order of business is prosecution and enforcement on past and pending citations. I'm going to make a motion to table that.
Second.
Having a motion and a second,
Thank you, Attorney.
please take the vote.
Thank you.
Supervisor Morales?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, and now, instead of the administrator making a report on the Barton Marketing Group editorial calendar, she has sent you a cover letter with what hours that were sought for the month of October. And you all have that. I think there may need to be one amendment based on some things that have come up in the interim with respect to the food pantry. Because by the time we get any press out on the food pantry, in our daily news, it will be too late. So our food pantry is very low and we don't have any food. I would like to add 2 hours. I think it's Claire's turn for trustee corner. I think she's going to talk about food pantry, and in my letter I am. But the mainly news does not come out until everybody thinks we have food. Till and we don't. So we did the crop walk. They give us a nice check, but that doesn't happen until in November's meeting, and that's too late. So we don't have any food now, and so I would like to put out, I guess it's called an emergency press release, and I think that 2 hours, and that would include, if Dick, I think, should probably talk to Claire because she's sort of the de facto person, right? That's her.
For the
Food
trustee corner?
No, for food pantry.
Oh.
I mean, I don't mean it's a bad thing, it's a good thing, that's your thing.
Laura, I already have 2
It's already in there.
Already in.
Oh, for the food pantry,
Yeah.
for this month?
Paragraph 2.
Second bullet point.
Oh.
Yeah, unless you wanted 2 press releases? Is bullet point number 2?
Yeah, we could reduce that to 2.
Oh, I don't know, I don't think you should reduce.
Oh, no, I didn't reduce it unless you wanted.
She didn't, she's recommending
2
to
press.
No, but you were mentioning 2 hours of time.
I meant 2 additional. I mean, I didn't know how dire, we're pretty, we had our department head meeting, and I got a lot of questions during bill pay about, that we have to go buy food, and so we're just really dire. And a lot of people are in our area are under the mistaken impression that it doesn't start till the holiday.
That's all here in paragraph, that's the purpose, it's all laid out.
You want to add a press release or another press release?
We can't do 4 and a half, we can't do 5 hours here.
It's probably the same.
It's the same thing that you're
And
saying.
if it's more.
How about that we make it 3 hours? We cut down his bill, I don't mean that like we should, to pay his bill. I'm just more concerned about the food pantry.
But you thought there was no time in here, and there is, there's 2 and a half.
Okay, so with respect, if there is 2 and a half, and Dana and I did go over this, I think, just to give a little flexibility there in case, he wants to get a quote from you or a quote from Caroline.
I do know sometimes he takes photos and
Right.
somebody donates, so that
Right.
probably you kind of.
And a photo maybe of the empty pantry. People really do think that we're good for Thanksgiving, and we're just not.
But I just hope if he uses his time, it's to
Oh,
do
there will
something
be
more than
a-
the same
yes.
regurgitation of what we've done before, because if he just does what he did before, it's not going to be.
But the press release that was issued last year, no, it won't be a regurgitation. The press release that was done last year did actually result in stocking our food pantry. So it did, and with Jewel doing their, but we just need Jewel to give it to us earlier than.
I think we'll pass press releases too and make sure obviously.
Right.
Funded.
We don't let them do that, or we try.
And not same quotes.
No, I would just say make it.
Something more direct
Yeah.
because we have limited time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would just say to make that 3, it's just to add a half hour. That's fine. With that, I would just motion to approve Dana's recommendation as outlined in that report.
That'd be fine.
So it would be a total of 15.5 hours for the month of October.
I just asked that, and this is just me, that with the 10-hour mainly news that he reports what he does in big blocks instead of just mainly news 2 hours.
Sure.
So that we can better decide how to use the hours.
Okay, sure.
All right, so having a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Trustee Sweeney.
On the previous agenda, we had, and the way the contract was structured, it was discussion and vote on anticipated needs for the monthly services of the Barton Market.
Well, that's what you're doing.
And that was a vote. On this agenda, there's no call for any action or vote. It is administrator's report on Barton Marketing Group's editorial calendar. The way we structured his contract was that we were going to take a vote.
At the top, it says discussion and potential action on the following items.
Where's that?
At the very top.
Oh, I missed that.
Okay, so
It covers literally everything.
Attorney Carrie Lynn?
That was at her suggestion months ago. That's been on there for a long time.
Okay, so the fact that we're taking a vote on money expenditure on an item that says administrator's report on Barton Marketing Group editorial calendar, does that comply with the Open Meetings Act?
You're not taking a vote
Requirement?
on money expenditure because whatever invoice he has will come back before the board, just like the one you voted on today.
Right.
So you're authorizing the time, which is what you wanted to do under the contract. And I would actually recommend that maybe you do this quarterly.
Right.
So you don't have this on every board agenda, or even, whatever, every 4 months or something, so that you don't have to do something.
Well, so far we're doing it.
Okay, so the word action, I just want to just get clarification. So the fact that we're taking a vote to agree to the...
To Dana's recommendation.
To Dana's recommendation, which is to incur expenses because he's authorized to go ahead.
Then you have to
I thought we
approve
would continually, every month, last month we did it for 2 months, right?
No,
We just did it for 1? Okay, I thought we did it for 2. So, and going forward, it may differ, so I understand that. But I just want to make sure that we're in compliance. That's my question.
Yeah, I think it sufficiently informs the public.
I'm sorry, can I take it back? We did do for September and October.
Yeah,
He
that's what I
just
thought.
turned in the September invoice.
Right.
And getting stuff because he only turns in monthly invoices.
Right, so this was November. That's why, last time we did 2 months, this was
Correct.
just, we
This is
left.
November.
Right, because we took the November off last month, but we did approve 2 months
Yes,
before.
yes.
But I would suggest in the future that, for open meetings compliance, that we actually say we're going to take a vote on what the expenses are, because we don't want to just, wait till he
But we're
incurs
not
them and then we
doing
approve them. We want to make sure that we're voting on it in advance.
That's in the bill thing. We're not doing that.
No,
Yes, it's
the
on
other
the
agenda.
The other agenda item I just read.
But that's because we
And we take
realize
discussion and
you
vote
don't
on
need
it
to
to
do that. Literally it says discussion and potential action.
Yeah,
I'm
but
asking
in,
if the action by not saying the word vote is sufficient. That's what I'm asking. And
Yes,
you're
I
saying
think
yes.
that language.
Okay.
I just want to,
I think in the future we
the
still
agenda, the last agenda did have that introductory line. There's
It
part-
did.
Discussion of potential action on action on
It
the
did.
following items. But then Dana also included specifically discussion and vote on. And I really think if we could follow that format, I would just be more comfortable.
So now, here's the thing. At the suggestion of our attorney, It was, because this again is gonna, another area where we'll just spend.
But I think it's
hours.
important because.
Wait a minute, hang on, let me just finish. And she suggested that Dana do a cover sheet, because you are trusting Dana, right?
All I'm saying
Wanted
is-
her recommendation.
All I'm saying is for us to do the same agenda item in the future as we did last time.
It's
But,
redundant.
but
No, I think it's
Every
clarification
month
to
is
people.
not
It's not about what we
something
want, it's
that-
the people that are in the audience or at home or want to know what's on the agenda.
It
They
says
realize that we're going to be
discussion
talking about these
that's
things.
actually, we've already resolved it. The
It looks
issue-
like it's just a report, like she's reporting by the agenda items. I'm just saying, that's what it looks like
That's
to
what it
me.
looked like to me.
So I'm just saying, if you're at home and you're looking at
Literally
this,
says-
you don't know if you're going to be voting on these 3 things to go to amend and look at it. It's helpful to be more clear. Why would we not want to be more
Okay,
clear?
so that's not the issue. So first of all, we just need to vote on this, and then, I think that what Carrie Lynn is saying, going forward, that this is already engendered, 20 minutes, and last month I think it engendered more like 45. But that, you've entrusted Dana with her recommendation, and actually Dana has cut down the requested hours. She spent many.
Oh,
So
I'm
why
talking
don't we
about-
do it on a quarterly basis?
I'm not talking about,
Yes.
what I'm talking about is just to use the same agenda item as we did the last time. That's all
Well,
I'm
we're
saying.
saying we're not put it on. the
Actually,
agenda.
Dana did do it on a quarterly basis, because that's what she did to us last month. She said, here's 3 months. We just chose to look at, because we had a lot of things on our plate, you made the suggestion, was just, we can consider too. So I was glad that she
Point is,
suggested
vote on
that.
this tonight. Are you gonna
Let's,
vote on
okay,
this
can
or
we
not?
vote on this tonight?
That's the point.
I mean, the attorney has said it's fine.
As long as it's, yes, we've got approval from our.
Let's do
attorney.
that first. Aye, can you take the roll call?
Supervisor Marasco?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabello?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay. And now, I think that her point, attorney's point is well taken, you're asking Dana's recommendation, and I would suggest that instead of it being on every meeting, that, and there will always be amendments because things come up.
But he says, I'm sorry, I can't, I've been.
Go ahead.
Go, I don't know.
I was just asking if anyone else, I thought maybe we could take a quick 3-minute recess or something.
No, we can't. We're just gonna.
Yeah.
Just go. Is that instead of, spending all of this time, and believe me, Dana and I have been nothing but watchdogs on this, nothing. We didn't sign the invoice. And we have really made it clear, but I think I need to have him here, or discuss with him, and tell him he can't charge us for that. Because no attorney charges for a billing question, and a professional really shouldn't do that. But in any event, I wasn't here for the signing of the contract. All I'm suggesting is that instead of every month, because I know David wanted a monthly agenda, that we do 3 months at a time, and then amend as necessary. And Dana will still submit her report. You'll still have it in your board packet. So, that's all I'm saying. So, considering November is going to have a heck of a lot on, we don't have to decide this right now. Think about it.
Sure we can.
Right?
I was just talking about the dictate of the agenda item in the OMA. I don't talk about the time period. If you want to go quarterly, I have no problem.
Oh, good. Well, you were the one that had asked for monthly, so.
And initially, I said that we should be on the agenda and we should follow it.
So quarterly would be great, because, and then, if something comes up and we need to, get additional hours, and, we'll put it on the agenda.
But I think just so that we don't have the same question on
Right.
whether or not it's okay, maybe just say discussion and vote, and then we don't have the same
Like you did.
discussion.
Okay, that's fine.
We can change it at the top then, if this is not,
Yeah.
you say voters.
Right. Like as she pointed out, not one of these things say vote, because it's at the top, like many other townships do. Elk Grove does it, Hanover does it, you know, because, I mean, otherwise you're getting a 3-page agenda, but if you want that, you know, we'll put it. It doesn't matter to me. Let's move on. Okay, new business. We have the capital fund discussion and vote. Mike, just in time. Where are you going?
It's going around the corner.
Step right up. So, we did go out to bid on the parking lot, and Mike will now tell you the results.
Basically, it just was what was in your board report. M&J Asphalt Paving Company at $47,650.
And that was the only bid.
That was the only bid.
And they met all, and we do have a representative from Space Co. whose name is?
Sean.
Sean.
That board.
Right, and, so, I'm sorry. So it had said Ted Ward, but Ted was unable, so he got the second in command. They met all bid specifications, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And they're IDOT pre-qualified as well.
Okay. So, we have not spent this capital fund, this parking lot needs to be done. It needs to be done before this weather, so, does anybody, well, let me get this started. I'm gonna make a motion to, accept the lowest responsible bid, from the company referenced.
Second.
Having a motion and second, is there any further discussion or questions? Trustee Smith?
How many bidders, people responded to this thing?
Just M&J, just one.
Just one? And it did go out to bid by you, correct?
We provided the bids to the township.
Yeah.
When they went out.
Spaceco provided the bid package and everything we put together, and we put it into the.
Which was run by our attorney.
Yeah.
And nobody, only one person responded?
Correct.
Do you know why? Is that unusual?
I mean, it's a busy year. I mean, it's towards the end of the year. Lots of people have large scale projects lined up towards the end of the year, fitting in before the weather hits. It's not very uncommon.
It's not very uncommon?
Correct.
Surprising to me.
Trustee McKenzie?
Do you think it's a fair bid?
Yes, we compared it with other unit prices from this year. It's slightly higher than other unit prices, but that's because it's a smaller scale project and mobilization costs. So with larger quantities, those costs are well thin like that, but it's a smaller scale. They are slightly higher, but we do find it to be a fair bid.
Are they a reputable company?
Yes.
When will your project start?
As soon as they approve it, we're hoping next week or the week after the board of review is done. I mean, don't worry. But we do need to get it on the books with this company. Right, that's what I mean. We have to get it. You know, we're projecting the second week in November, so it will be after you're done. Right? That's what we're projecting.
Yes, when I talked to Ted today, and Sean, if you can back it up, he was saying, I believe, you guys would start the contract tomorrow and then maybe within a couple weeks.
Yes, board approves tonight, we will get the contract put together and to M&J tomorrow, and then when they sign that, it will come to the township to sign, and once it gets executed, contract.
Now, I'm the only person that needs to sign it, right? Or do we need to have Mikey deliver it to 4 people?
No, only one person.
Right.
And then once the contract's executed, contractor turnaround time is typically 2 to 3 weeks. That's from when they've gotten the notice to proceed to when they start.
Did the scope of the project change at all? Because the estimate to begin with was about $20,000.
That there, Susan, to speak on that there was just a very rough estimate at the beginning of the year that I tried my best to put together. That had nothing to do with any engineering companies or anything like that. That's basically a very, very rough estimate on my part.
Okay. And is it
Having
typical,
never done.
Yeah,
No
never,
offense.
yeah.
is it typical that we always, and this was sort of one of those items that we talked about with the capital budget because it was of an urgent nature and not really accounted for.
It's a capital nature, and this is, the reason this is more is we've done this cosmetic fix for the past few years where we just pave over the cracks. That's not working. We need to, this is much, yeah, this is much bigger in scope. I mean,
Right, but
this
I
is
just-
digging out the old lot, regrading, you know,
Right.
this is a bigger thing. And it absolutely is a capital fund project.
Okay, and
And we promise to bring every capital fund project to you.
so is it, I know Spaceco was, you know, doing the, you know, orchestrating this bid process, but how often have we done it ourselves in Maine Township, or is it? You know,
No,
with-
you have to have a bid package that is acceptable by law.
Right,
So we tried, sent it to the attorney, and they were all, you know, and then that's
overall what, I'm sorry,
wrong.
wrong?
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be a plan of survey, there needs to be quite a few things that go into it that, you know. So that's what you guys hired, I mean.
Yeah, I'm just
approval.
wondering in general, like, okay, so we might need their expertise to do the bid process, but.
Right, they're
as far
done.
as far as getting it out to people to bid and have competition, you know,
That's
if
not
one
their
person
job.
responded, I just wondered if it's different, you know. if it would
That's
be
not
different
their job.
If it was brought forward by us.
It's not, it's published in the you can speak to it, but it's published
It's, yeah, it's published.
and
And where, what paper? Just tell me so I understand this.
What's it, dated in the journal?
In
Yeah,
the
journal.
journals, yes, in the journal,
The Journal and Topics,
yes,
and that was it?
We had it on our website as well.
yes.
Oh, we did have it on our website.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you
It
just
was on
did.
the website.
Yeah, no, we had it on there as well.
And this is always what we do with the bids, even if we do bids for
Okay, that
the,
was done how
for
many
the
years?
highway departments, it
Like a
always
month?
goes to.
We had it out for about, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks.
oh, yeah.
Yes.
We have, don't we have a 3-week usually?
Yeah, it was the required by law amount.
Yeah, any of the requirements that
A
we had to
month?
follow with it is what we did.
No, it was whatever is required, that's why we hired, that's why you guys hired Space Company.
Okay, I'm just hearing you're saying it's required by month, and he said.
Whatever the amount of time
Yeah,
is required by law, so.
3 weeks.
Can we take a vote?
Mary Lynn, is that what it is, 3 weeks? What is the requirement?
For publication? I mean, it's a statutory.
Forbidden.
Okay.
I think, didn't you just answer it?
No.
When you do it for the highway department,
Well, when we give it to the highway department, they publish it. After that point, we're handed off. So I couldn't tell you what the law is on the publication.
I know that clerk fee should not, well, appropriate.
The bid has to be advertised at least once, at least 10 days prior to the time for the opening of the bids.
There you go.
10 days?
Yeah, at least 10 days, so we did 3 weeks. Has everybody had a chance to come? That wanted to come. Okay, yes, we can call the question. Clerk fee.
Supervisor.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie.
Yes.
Trustee Carabota.
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney.
Yes.
Thank you for, John, for saying.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
And so, hopefully, you know what? Well, you'll make arrangements to get it over to me
Yes.
at my office.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing, don't move. Carpet cleans. That's the next capital fund, thing. Mike?
So with the carpeting, I have 2 that was included in your board package. I have one company that did not get back to me on it, but I am recommending that we go with Milano Interiors. I would like to go ahead and do the offices first, so we could use a lot of our common areas and surface areas, like this entire boardroom, to move a lot of the furniture. I just feel like putting down new carpet first and then having furniture all over the place, I'm putting it on top. I'd rather not do that, so I'm looking to go ahead and kind of piece this through and do the offices first. And that's at $10,430.
Anybody have any questions of that?
Do you know when they'd start doing it?
I don't know. That's another one where pretty much would have to plan it out, see what's good for everybody in the office, but ASAP.
At least it's an indoor project.
Yeah, it's an indoor project, so I would look within the next couple of weeks to go ahead and get this started.
I have a question in general just about the capital budget, because I thought when we had initially approved that it was for those things that were not to be expected and to be, that were not budgeted for. As either an urgent need or a need that...
That's the spending authority. That's definitely. The capital fund was for any improvement to the township or its buildings.
But, I mean, a wish list, you know, I had thought, and because I'm the one that initiated that it would be something, we would budget for those things that we need every year. Carpeting as such, under a specific line item.
No, it's not, it's a capital fund, it's not in the, it's taken out. It's not part of the budget.
It's a capital improvement, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. No,
It's
you
a
can-
capital improvement, so you don't budget that every year unless you're gonna amortize something.
Right,
And
right.
So the way most companies do it, what we decided to do is have a capital fund for these capital improvements.
So that would be every
If you
year.
remember, we talked
Right.
about certain things, like this was one, and so was the.
Yeah, I mean, some of these, because the wish list kind of grew from what we originally thought, whatever.
Well, because you gotta
Okay,
spend.
so I guess my question about the carpet was, because until I read this and saw it in our original request, is the need really there to do that right now? I mean, is this?
We've had this down for a while. We've done a lot of past summers where we've gone ahead and done some carpet cleaning. I do feel that if you walk around the building and take a look at it, especially the upstairs, the common walkway areas, that it is needed.
But like in this carpet?
This here does have some stains. If you actually, like, we're not even doing main stage right now in our basement just because you don't have as much foot traffic that goes along with it. I mostly focus this project just based on heavy traffic areas. This would be one of them too. This would be at a later point, but this would be one of them.
Also, the carpet hasn't been replaced for
as long as I've been here, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a long time.
That is 20 years.
Yeah.
About 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
This is not
And
10,000.
No, this would be separate.
Yeah.
I would have to, yeah.
So
this will
we
be
decided to
something that I'll
divide
have
it in
to-
two, so it wasn't a huge
Yeah.
expenditure. And an inconvenience to the board, because once we do this room, and some of the offices are disgusting.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, I just felt breaking it down, go ahead and move a lot of the furniture in here, and once everything is over with the assessor's office, and we can go ahead and get a lot of furniture moved in here, and
Right, because then you can
just make it more convenient and try to make it as easy as possible for the employees to still do their thing.
And just to be clear, that list wasn't exhaustive. The capital fund list?
No,
Yes,
I'm
you
looking
can
at, I just asked Dana to send, that's what I'm looking at right now.
No, but it, like things, you know, that's not an exhaustive list. Like that's not something that, I mean, things, then, anyways, I'm gonna call the question because nobody else has any comments, so.
I just have one other thing, were there other vendors that were, I know.
I think you already got to talk.
But I didn't get to ask this question about other bids.
This isn't a bid, this is just
It's not a
your
bid.
estimates.
It's under
There's no
20,
bid, yeah,
it's
there's
under
no-
20,000.
There's no bids for this.
I know. Yeah, there's no, this did not go out to bid.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought we talked about this before, though, that we would have bids regardless if it's under,
No.
just for
No,
good
I don't know
practice.
where- No. So, in the
Well, that's
future,
good.
if you do have those kinds of
I've
questions,
said this before, so I'm just repeating it, that I think it's still wise to go out to bid.
so just an answer to your question, no, you don't do bids for under 20,000. You do estimates, and in the future, if you do have those kind of questions, it would be much more efficient if you ask them ahead of time.
I brought this up before, that's why it's not
No, I mean,
I-
you know, I get a lot of emails, so you can ask Mikey, you can ask, I mean, it was in the board packet, and, there's nothing outrageous. I think he's highly reputable. And a township, to my knowledge, a
Right, yes.
township vendor.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, now, I'm calling the question. Oh, a motion to accept the quote for Tom Valano of $10,430 as an estimate to
Second.
come from the capital fund. Having a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can you call it?
Supervisor Moras?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, so this had gotten split up because Tanya needed to
Thank you.
go.
Thank
for
you,
it.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael. All right, which was discussion of 2019 levy. So I am proposing to keep our special. That there was a mistake apparently that I didn't know.
Trustee Carabona, sorry.
It's okay. It isn't the 11th.
11 is in holidays.
Right, because you guys will be in Springfield, so, or something. So, it definitely was not the 11th. It was
The 19th.
19, yeah. I think you all have it.
I think we should change put the correct date then in the.
I will do this.
Change the what?
The dates.
The minutes.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I'll change that.
In fact, I'm fine. Somebody cut. All right, so, then we can have discussion. So I'm gonna motion to defer discussion of that to that.
Second.
Okay, so, Leisha, it just says discussion, so I don't think we actually, but let's just do a vote since I said potential action on the following items.
Supervisor Moras?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie? What are we voting on?
To defer discussion of the levy to special.
Yes. Trustee Carabona?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay. Now. Oh my goodness, and that tables. Wonderful. Okay, next is officials' reports. So, given the hour, let's hopefully be brief. I'm gonna go first because I do want to report some success with Republic. I did meet with them. They agreed to go back to weekly service, and it will be starting the last, like the week of November 4th. Also, they are going to, we had a meeting with all their new top honchos, and it was Dr. Death who had been the person who had been the one who had screwed it up. So we met with all the top honchos that were all in agreement to go back to every week. Then we had a little bit of miscommunication about, so they're going to put door tags on every single door of households. They're gonna shoulder that cost to do that. As well as I got a, question / complaint from a resident about the fact that they don't appropriately advertise their senior discount, which actually I did some research along with Dana and Mike.
Right.
And it's true. But I couldn't call Mr. Levy back until I had talked to Republic, and the Republic guy agreed with me that our brochures are wrong and that we should not have to have the person give their tax bill because no other municipality has to do that. And he also agreed with me, but he's checking with his operations manager because he's brand new. Because I want them to send a letter to every person. We did agree, I asked him to put it on the door tag that is being, put on every household. And further, I asked him to put it on their bill that a senior discount can be had merely by sending in a copy of your ID with the bill. I do think that we're going to use a line item that we have some money in to do a township mailer as well, which was asked by Mr. Lee.
Can we put it on the website?
Yeah, it's already, yeah, absolutely.
There's a senior discount?
We did that, yeah. Believe me, I went and checked.
I saw it on there, and I didn't see it on the website. Did I give you that? Well, regardless, it will go on. Why would we incur the expense of a separate mailer to do that?
Well,
Why would
Mr.
just Republic
Levy
do that?
had requested that because not a fan of Republic. Since Republic did seem to sort of.
No, but that's taxpayer expense. We're sending out a mailer to let people know. I mean,
It's
Seems like-
2,000 people.
but Republic's doing it.
Well, that's when I was gonna tell Mr. Levy that I would rather Republic do it, but you're the one that talked to him at the garage sale, and.
Yeah, he just walked up to the table.
Okay, I'm just saying,
reading what the
I solved one problem of his, and he came up with this one. So I investigated, he was correct about the senior discount, and if Republic does send the letter, yeah, great.
Okay.
They are gonna change the flyer. I don't know how fast that's gonna happen. I know that every week is gonna happen.
Look, it could be in the front page of our website, and it could be.
It will absolutely be on the front
Republic,
page.
and I said,
And I tend to agree with you that Republic should shoulder the cost, but I don't know that it's gonna be a huge expense to send 2,000 residents a letter telling them that you can get a senior discount by enclosing. I'll price it out, but I'm very fiscally conscious of, and we have money in the line item for that. So I don't project that mailer would be more than $700, if that. So we have the list. We might be able to do it in-house and just do the bulk mail calls. If I can get Pete to agree to actually send this letter, great. But I was very happy that they went back to once a week and agreed to door tag every house. They made special schedules. for the sumac people who requested that and for the D Road people. Okay, that's my report, along with, we did something, but doesn't matter. I mean, in terms of public something, event that we had, in any event, in the interest of time, that's it. Okay, Trustee Jones.
In light of the late hour and the other agenda items we still need to discuss, I'm going to waive my report.
Trustee McKenzie.
I'll waive my report as well.
Trustee Carabone.
I like to talk about the fun stuff. I was looking at all the work that went on since the last meeting. I don't want to go into all that. I want to just thank Dr. Michael Palliser of Park Ridge, who's his office in Park Ridge, resident of Niles, and the Lions Club with him. He's a member for the micro marathon they put on October 5, which was a fundraiser for the harbor. My wife and I participated in that, an awful lot of fun, and raised some very serious funds for the harbor, and that was great. And then October 12th, the week after, before flying out of town, we participated in the Center of Concerns, Hidden Hops and Wild Grapes in the Secret Garden Gala, which was an awful lot of fun. You had to wait till the last minute to find out where the Secret Garden is. The Secret Garden was Pesci's Garden Center in Des Plaines. They took out all of their displays, opened it all up so tables could be set up, music, dancing, great food, bar, etc. Raised some good money there for the Center of Concern, and I think John did a great job for the center. Apparently it was Fran's idea. It's a brilliant idea. It was a lot of fun. We walked through. It's something you should do. Stop by Pesci's and walk through all the poinsettias right now that are just coloring. It's absolutely gorgeous. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank Bob and Myrna Zalesny who joined us at that function. Thank you.
Trustee Singer.
Keep this very short. I attended the most recent Township Officials of Cook County Quarterly Trustee Meeting, and there was a presentation that I forwarded on to the board that we'll need to take a look at, because recreational marijuana legalization has come to Illinois and will be in effect January 1, and there are implications on that for townships as well as all governmental units and employees. So as I've mentioned before, I think we need to look at some kind of an ordinance or a resolution that we will be passing to understand what implications that has as us as an employer. So, and I just want to, that's it. Thank you.
Assessor Monica.
I sponsored 3 outreach seminars with the Board of Review. The first was at Park Ridge Town Hall. The second one on the 3rd was in Des Plaines at their Town Hall. And the last one I had was on the 7th at the Township. And the Township was filled up as normal, like it usually is. I wanted to talk about what, know that there's a lot of people in this room and in the audience that really think that the assessor's office is really insufficient and really not necessarily worth the time and the effort. But I'm into 2 weeks in October from when we opened with the Board of Review, and I've already serviced 1,218 people, and that's not even the end of October. Our office is the most sought after office in the township. The traffic that comes to our office supports that. And whether you all believe it or not, people depend upon our office and look for us. So I just wanted to give that report tonight, and that's all I got.
Thank you.
I would also add that I've received a lot of compliments on the job that you're doing here. that's been going on in the assessor's office during this particular board review time, so.
Oh, wow, I'm surprised that.
Well, and there are quite a few in the
It is
Park
on.
Ridge Concern Homeowners Black, also, that refer people, and thank you for doing that, and also for getting time here, and also for, having you and Liz do this report, which I think will help the new construction that is on the tax rolls. So I think that will help. One question, when is the board of review closed?
It's actually closed November 5th, and we will continue to do them, but we are asking our people
To do it early soon.
Well, we actually go downtown and deliver to the board of review all our paperwork, because there's a problem with vaccine and all that kind of stuff. So, we actually deliver all our paper product, and we have a lot. My office has staffs.
Because I noticed it's the 30th, you stopped taking
Paper
appeals.
product. So anybody that has anything that they're going to be attaching with their appeal, they're gonna have to bring it downtown. I mean, we will help them do that. We will have to help them get their paperwork together, but at that point in time, they're gonna have to take it downtown. So it'll be filed in time. Otherwise, if they wanna send it like certified mail or something like that. But we work all the way into the 5th, doing appeals.
Oh, because it says on the website the 30th. That's what
Yeah,
it said at the
it
meeting.
says it because of the paper situation. But we continue, people still come in. They think that we're doing it for our anyway. They still come in. We have a lot of last minute people. We have people come in a day or two even after. And then we're done, we can't do it anymore.
Well, because if people ask, it says on the website the 30th, and that's what you said at the meeting, because I was here.
But we say that the board of review is open until the 5th.
So they can come into this office beyond the 30th, between the 30th and the 5th?
But we will not send in paper product for them. And that's a big deal. People.
That's the difference.
Okay, so you're open, you just won't send it. They have to bring it
We
themselves.
won't, yes, because we won't bring it, we won't go downtown after that point.
So on October 30th, paper products, they can still, the board of review.
But we file online. We file online for people.
The 5th.
That's
Right. So, and we have, the days, we've had very heavy traffic, for that. So I do want to compliment the job that has been done by that department. And also, thank you for doing this report that we're going to get. Okay, so I'm going to assume the administrator is, I do want to congratulate Ann Cameron, who did win a toy award. She won Mainstays Youth Program Coordinator in 2019 at COI, the Association of Illinois Township Committee on Youth Staff Award, which is given to a staff member of an at-COI organization who has shown outstanding dedication to helping youth. Having won that before, that is a nice award, and will be at the Springfield Conference, so we're very proud. And want to congratulate her, want to congratulate Doreen on receiving recognition, well-deserved from TAC. And I think the other issues with respect to Dana's report, we will be having a meeting with Jocelyn before their agency funding, so that they turned down, the psychiatrist did not take their job. So that's the update from that. So we want to have a meeting with them, me, Rich, and Dana, to tell them that it's not going to be acceptable with the current level of funding, and you have to have a nurse practitioner. They're still looking for a psychiatrist, so. Anything to add to that? Okay, attorney's report.
I have no report.
All right, Now, I'm gonna move to go to closed session for review and approval of the April 23rd, 2019 closed session minutes. Wait, hang on one sec. Minutes are from September.
Oh, April.
From what?
April.
They are from April. 6 months.
Yeah, then we have to.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so, never mind. I mean, yes, I'm making a motion to go into closed session
Second.
for the purpose of approving, review and approval of April 23rd, 2019 closed session minutes. All right, motion second. Any further discussion? Leisha, call the roll.
Supervisor Moras?
Yes.
Trustee Jones? Yes. Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All staff can leave. Motion second, Leisha, call the roll.
11:14.
All right. Can you call the roll?
Yes, Supervisor Moras?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm gonna make a motion to release the approved closed session minutes. Yeah,
Second?
thank you. Having a motion and a second, I'm assuming there's no further discussion. Clerk Leisha, can you call?
Supervisor Moras?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie? Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
And now, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.